Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Stoic book club. We are Painted Porch Strategies. I'm Amy Yakowski, and I'm here with Sierra Ram Cantrell and Rob Hunter. And as I mentioned, we're the Painted Porch Strategies team, and each week we meet for the next 52 weeks to go over a weekly lesson from our Handbook for New Stoics. This book has 52 small lessons that will help you find ways to incorporate a little nugget of Stoicism and actually apply it into your everyday life. And even as they say on the front of this book, a life that is outside of your control. Because the reality is, when it comes to what we as individuals can control, it's very little. As a quick reminder, Rob, Sierra, what can we control?
Our emotions, our thoughts, and what we say.
You get a gold star.
Yay! Now, I do want to just throw in too, in case you're wondering why we're called Painted Porch Strategies, Amy named us after the Stoic, where Stoicism was founded. The Painted Porch was where people came from all walks of life to discuss Stoic philosophy, like we're discussing today. So welcome to the porch.
That's correct. It was an impromptu school that didn't have walls and that was welcome to everyone. So we welcome you to join us each week here with these lessons or through the additional challenges and insights that we have on the porch. So we are on week 29. We are plugging along here, making progress. And this week's lesson is talking about how to review your actions nightly. So one of the things that is considered probably one of the most useful Stoic exercises is the idea of the evening meditation or evening reflection. They use the term meditation in this book, but it's not necessarily meant to be, as Sierra teaches in her radical mindfulness program, a meditation where you're closing your eyes, you're breathing deeply, you're standing in your power. It's really meant to be a sit down, as I like to say, a sit down where you're just assessing the events of your day and evaluating how that day went. And number one, recognizing the areas that maybe went great, some that didn't go so well, what they call pardoning yourself for the things that maybe didn't go so well, not letting yourself off the hook, but recognizing that you are human, and then identifying ways that you can improve in the future. So this is a really, really big exercise. One of the core things that, as you're a Stoic in training, it's like, as we like to say, it's a great exercise that you can employ. So initial thoughts on the evening meditation / reflection exercise.
I think that really this is all about reviewing to live a more intentional life. I always say when you think about living intentionally, it's like thinking about your purpose, defining your purpose, and then making sure that your actions are steering you on that course towards your purpose. Because it's so easy to get distracted by everything that happens in life. Things happen and pull you off course. But the meditation, the evening reflection or meditation, however you want to think of it, it just helps you kind of, okay, this happened, where is this going? Am I headed down the right path here? Am I headed down the virtuous path? Or how can I do better at staying on my chosen path?
Mm-hmm.
This is the one I struggle with the most because I've had this idea that I want to have AM and PM questions. So to set up the day with AM questions and then to review the day with the PM questions, but I just can't get the questions right. At least I don't feel like I'm going to get my questions right. So what I wrote down was I at my best today? Why or why not? What moments was I not my best? What can I do to elevate next time? Did I inspire anyone today? Is that too hard to measure, though, was my subsequent question. How would I even know that? What did I learn today? So they're questions, but they're so open-ended, I have trouble looking at them and going, oh yeah, I'm inspired to answer that question at the end of the day.
What happens if you just started, say, with one or two of them?
I don't know. I've never tried. But part of it too is the time, and that's the biggest challenge. Is to make it enough of a priority to give yourself the time to do it, which I haven't really done yet. So I haven't given myself the time to figure out the right questions that are going, oh yeah, these are the questions I want to answer. And I haven't then given myself the right time to answer the questions.
Right. Because it's true. It's so often, especially in this hashtag hustle culture that we live in now, where hustling is certainly rewarded. A lot of times you get in robot mode. Wake up, brush your teeth, take a shower, get dressed, go to work, eat lunch, come home from work, cook dinner, sit down, maybe read a book, go to bed. It's like shut down. And really what this is trying to do is saying, just take a few minutes each day to pause and reflect. What I love here is, as what they do in all of these lessons, they do have a quote. It's a very long one from our friend Seneca. But what he talks about is really, if someone else, he says, your secret inquisitor and censor had made his report, essentially, what would he say if he was observing you and writing it down? And he says, I conceal nothing from myself, for why should I be afraid of any of my shortcomings when it is in my power to say, I pardon you this time, see that you never do that anymore. It's really the idea of continuous improvement. Sierra, as you talk about in your radical mindfulness program, the idea of growth mindset. How can I take this and make it just a little bit better? Or how can I improve or up my game just a little bit, as opposed to just going from in mechanical, task to task mode? Are there opportunities that I can make things better, either for myself, for others, what have you? So that's the big thing that I love about this, and helping you learn from your mistakes. So that way you don't keep repeating them.
Now, did you do it though?
Did I do it?
Yeah.
Do I do the reflection?
Yeah.
I've done the reflection very often.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what steps have you taken to be able to do it?
It's really just, it's setting an intention. It's the biggest thing, I think, is tying it to a habit. Again, Sierra, you talk about this a lot in your courses, tying it to some sort of ritual habit that you do. So if it's after I brush my teeth every night, I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes and do this. And if you have to set a timer, set a timer. So that way you don't get caught up in it and it's way past your bedtime and your mind's just going. I think that's really the key, is just making the space for it. And you can say it's harder than it sounds, but it's really just what it sounds. It's just making that space. 5 minutes. That's all it's.
And by example of brushing the teeth is, if you're going to do it after you brush your teeth, keep your little notebook next to your toothbrush. Mm-hmm. That way it'll attach and you'll be brushing your teeth. Oh, I got to remember to do my reflection. It's right here. It's ready for me. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is in, as Rob mentions in his course, the preparation is prepare it, decide when you're going to do it, and then have all the tools you need right there so that you can't use.
Or if you have a set bedtime every night that you try to aim for, maybe set an alarm for 10 minutes before that bedtime. And that alarm goes off to remind you, oh, it's time for me to do my meditation, my reflection tonight.
But the trouble is getting the right questions. That's what you also have to spend time doing. So if you're going to go and you're going to set your intention, make sure you get your right questions, because the idea of asking the right questions is to get you into that, like Sierra just said, that intentional mindset. Mm-hmm. So the first step that I haven't even conquered yet, as I continue to learn to be a better Stoic, is to set that time aside and write those questions down and make sure they're good enough questions to answer that will gear me towards the next day to be more mindful.
This sounds like AMBIAC level pressure you're setting on yourself, Rob.
What does that mean?
Oh, Rob really loves questions, so I'm not surprised by this. He has a whole section in his course all about questions, and I know how much you love words and you love crafting the perfect question. I would say just ask yourself a question that's going to get you in a mindset where you can identify this quickly. What's sparking for you?
Mm-hmm. And it may simply start as just one. One of the things that they talk about here is that there's a big difference. They say, this is obviously based on the idea of journaling, or really journaling came from this, because this is way older than this journaling concept. Heck, that was Marcus Aurelius's whole thing. He basically journaled every day, and they turned it into a book called Meditations. But they talk about that there's so much of a difference. Journaling shifts you from thinking to examining. And I think that's really the key difference here is so often our minds are constantly going and we're thinking about all the things we should be doing or wanted to do or coming up with the questions that we want to create. And really what this does is it just takes that shift from up here to down here and really setting it on paper and examining something as simple as maybe it's just, how did my day go today? And maybe it's just one question. They do have a couple of variations of prompts. They actually pull from two different of our Stoic buddies here. They have Seneca's questions, and they usually do it in threes. They want to keep it pretty simple. It doesn't have to be, 15-point day analysis. It's really meant to be just three very simple questions, and they are variations of the same. So for Seneca, the questions were, what bad habit did I work on today? What vice did I work on? And in what respect am I a better person? So those are his three questions. Now, Epictetus, he says, what did I do wrong today? What did I do right today? And what should I work on in the future? Three very simple questions. And for you, Rob, maybe it just starts with one. Rank my day from 1 to 10. And then why did I rank it that way? Maybe something as simple as that. But it doesn't have to be perfect, which is why I said you're basically channeling Amy Ack right now. It doesn't have to be perfect in order to make progress. Right?
What do you mean when you say this is the inner Amy Ack? Explain that if someone's watching that does not know you.
So Amy Ack, that's me, is pretty much, I definitely struggle from the idea of right and perfectionism and making sure things are just so. So I could see where Rob might struggle with this. I can definitely sympathize, but ironically, this time I didn't overthink it, which is what I normally do. I didn't overthink it, and I just came up with my three questions, which were a variation of this. But before I go with mine, Sierra, what were your questions that you came up with?
So I went the simple route, and I just went with Epictetus's questions because I thought they were very straightforward. What did I do wrong today? What did I do right today? And what should I work on in the future? And that simplicity serves me pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, mine I think was probably a little bit of a combination of the two. What I ask is, what did I accomplish or do well today? Because for me, one of the things that I struggle with is recognizing work that I've done. Because especially for many of us who maybe are working from home or there's a blur of what your role is in your life. Yeah, exactly. Mom, business owner, teacher, wife, so many different roles that we play. A lot of what we do day in and day out, we don't always see. And so that was why for me, I said, what did I accomplish? As well as what did I do well today? So it's kind of a coupled piece because accomplish and do well they're two sides of the same coin, but still accomplishment is key, even if it's a small thing like I took a shower today. That's an accomplishment. You got to acknowledge the small things. The second question was, I said, what was left undone? So for me, because accomplishment is a big piece, I focus on, it's almost like a data dump of uncompleted tasks that I want to make sure I catch. And then my third question was, how can I improve tomorrow? So those are my three questions that I ask. I do also have a morning ritual as well, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure, on another session. Yeah. So any final thoughts on the journaling and the morning routine or the evening reflection?
Make time, make space.
Yes.
Final advice, because I haven't done it yet. So that's my task for this continual lesson for me.
So do you have any ideas or thoughts on how you're going to make the time or space? Are you going to say, for example, like Sierra said, put it next to your toothbrush? Are you going to maybe set an alarm? Are you going to set a reminder on your calendar?
I'm just going to answer these questions rather than overthink them. I'm just going to use Seneca's and Epictetus' questions and go from there.
But how will you remember to do it each night?
I'll do it before I go to bed.
There you go.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Done.
Before you go. Done. I found this unit really helpful, especially because I like that. I like the forgiveness part of what went wrong. So someone like me who tends to be very sensitive, if I just said, what did I do wrong today and left it at that, I probably would give myself a lot of lashings about things. But when I acknowledge what I've done wrong, and then I can flip it immediately after, it's not, don't beat yourself up. You're not a horrible person. It's what can I do with the information of what I could have done better, and how can I make a plan to do better? So I'm focusing on moving forward. I'm not stuck in the past because I've already made the mistake. But in the present, I'm going to identify that and then make a plan for the future. And that's what I found helpful.
Yeah, agreed. It's not just, giving yourself a pass. It's giving yourself forgiveness, or as they say in here, self-compassion for the fact that you are human and you do make mistakes. And sometimes you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. Or sometimes you're just not your best self in certain situations. And being able to recognize that, see it for what it is, but then forgive yourself for that mistake. But to your point, Sierra, tethering it to how am I going to avoid, or how am I going to not allow this to get the better of me in the future, whatever it may be.
So we'd love to hear your questions. Shoot them our way. Reach out to us here. Find us on Facebook, Painted Porch Strategies, where we're gathering to have Stoic discussions.
Yes.
PM questions.
Yes. And if you have some wonderful questions, please let us know. Post them in the comments here, so that way we can possibly have new sparks of inspiration.
I need it.
New questions that we can ask, because again, sometimes having the same question and you just ask that same question day in and day out is going to be what works. And sometimes maybe you want to mix it up a little bit. And so we would love to hear your thoughts on great questions, as well as whether or not you do some type of evening reflection, whether you just call it journaling, or if you do something a little bit more structured like what the Stoics do here. We would love to hear that and have you share it with us, because that's what we're here for. We are gathering on the Painted Porch with you, and we thank you for joining us. Again, I am Amy with Rob and Sierra, and we hope to see you again for our next lesson, which is week 30. It's so funny. It's so funny how these are really much the way we space them out and who gets assigned. We basically just rotate them. But whoever gets assigned, it seems to tie in perfectly, because week 30s is do whatever political good you can. And it is perfect for our resident talk show host, Rob Hunter, since he is embroiled in talking about politics.
I'm probably doing the opposite of it every single day.
So on that note, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again soon on the porch.